to the January 4th, 2016 regular meeting of the Milford Board of Aldermen. Please join us as we salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Alderman Anderson?
Present.
Alderman Beatty? Alderman Bevan? Alderman Beer?
Madam Secretary, Alderman Bear is on his way.
Thank you. Alderman Casey?
Here.
Alderman Gurman? You here? Alderman Giannatasio?
Here.
Alderman Golden?
Here.
Alderman Grant?
Present.
Alderman Hardiman? Alderman Shaw? Alderman Smith? Alderman Vecchiarelli? Alderman Vitro?
Here.
Alderman Vitale? 14 present, Mr. Chairman.
We do have a quorum. The next portion of the meeting is devoted to public comment. Statements are limited to the legislative function of the Board of Aldermen. Time limit granted to each speaker shall be 3 minutes. Residents, taxpayers, and electors may address the board at this time. The board encourages speakers not to express derogatory, insensitive, or offensive statements or to engage in personal attacks against individuals. In order to allow everyone an opportunity to speak, I'd ask that everyone please limit their comments to 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to address the board can do so at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Vitro. I'd like to wish everybody a Happy New Year. My name is Tim Chaucer. I live at 104 Hawley Avenue. I'm speaking tonight briefly as a former chairman of the Conservation Commission and not with other organizations that I'm associated with, okay? I know you have an item at the very end of your agenda tonight about the Stowe barn and the open space that goes with it. And I took I've never been inside the barn. I've been wanting to get inside the barn. I've never been in the barn. I was on the property several years ago, and I just recently, this past weekend, went on the property and walked the property. If you haven't been there in recent years, you've got to walk this property. It is a park-like setting, and that barn is absolutely incredibly gorgeous from the outside. I understand there's some issues with the inside, perhaps, but that's true of any over 100-year-old barn. But it's absolutely a park. And, of course, it sits in probably the most overdeveloped section of Milford, which is the Walnut Beach area, which does not have a lot of open space. So as a park, you know, some people say, well, gee, you know, the barn, nothing's happening with the barn. But, you know, if you've ever been to Booth Memorial Park over in Stratford, there's all kinds of historic structures at Booth Memorial Park, and they sit there, and there's not a lot happening with those structures, but they're part of the beauty and the character of Booth Memorial Park. So I would think long and hard before this property were sold. If you insist on selling a portion of the property, then it should only be the barn. But I would suggest, and not the open space. The open space is very, very precious, park-like, and there isn't a lot of it left, and we're always trying to seek other parcels of open space. But a lease arrangement would make a lot of sense if somebody wants to try out their business in this area, in the barn. You might want to lease the barn for a couple of years and see what happens. Businesses succeed and businesses failed. And I happen to know the lady that is doing the business, and she seems very sincere, this particular person. But I would be very hesitant, certainly, to sell this property. All right, thank you very much.
Hi, and good evening. My name is Kevin Collins, 233 Housatonic Drive in Milford.
I want to thank the board for this opportunity to bring up an issue that has affected my family and our neighbors in the River Cliff section of town. Did you know that Milford has no law preventing the storage of boats on our public roads? Since September of 2015, a neighbor has parked a trailer jet ski directly in front of my house on Housatonic Drive. The boat's on a double-wide trailer and is not hitched to any vehicle. This has created an eyesore, a safety concern, and it's an inconvenience for all the neighbors in the area. There are neighbors who park their cars on the street, but these are used on a daily basis and can be driven away under their own power at any time. My neighbors and I have called and have had personal discussions with the Milford police about this matter, but they're as frustrated as we are that nothing can be done about it because the boat is on a registered trailer and there's no ordinance preventing it. Milford has ordinances on the books prohibiting motorhomes and RVs from being allowed to park on city streets for any appreciable length of time, but this neighbor's taking advantage of a loophole in the code that does not cover boat trailers. A day doesn't go by when a neighbor stops to tell me that they nearly rammed into the thing in the dark the previous night and asks why the police can't tow it away or make the neighbor get it off the street. Neighbors, friends, visitors are always stunned when I tell them it's legal in Milford to warehouse a boat and trailer on virtually any residential street and with no time restriction. We've spoken with planning and zoning, and they claim the trailer is not in a yard but on a public street, therefore it's a police issue. Milford is a waterfront community and has many, many boat owners who are responsibly store their craft in a boat yard or in their driveway or yard. Full-time storage of a boat on a city street really constitutes a reckless disregard for the vast majority of Milford citizens. In fact, when I mention this issue to boat-owning friends, I always say the same thing. Why am I paying for boat storage at a boatyard when I can just leave it on the street? I've also asked this question, and the answer seems to be that virtually nobody realized that there is no ordinance that prohibits it. With new proposals for apartments and condominiums popping up all over town, it's easy to see how a boat owner who is prohibited by his or her complex from keeping a trailered boat or who doesn't have the adequate parking spot to do so can simply park in front of any stranger's house for as long as he likes. Calls to surrounding towns like West Haven, Orange, Shelton, Hamden, and Fairfield show they have laws on the books that do not allow this type of irresponsible behavior, and leaving a trailered watercraft on the street, registered or not, will lead to ticketing and towing. A quick Google search reveals ordinances all over the country that address this problem by restricting the length of time the trailer can be on the street, usually to 72 hours or so. This is a common sense solution to a problem that needs to be addressed here in Milford. In short, I'm trying to bring to your attention a loophole in our city ordinances that benefits no one in town except those who selfishly take advantage of it and ruin the integrity of our neighborhoods. I thank you for the time and for your consideration, and I hope the Board of Aldermen of this community can help us in Rivercliff and ultimately all the people of Milford.
Does anybody else wish to address the board at this time? Seeing none, Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item number 3, consideration of minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Aldermen held on December 7th, 2015.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. There was no special meeting. Item number 5, Chairman's report. First of all, I want to wish everyone here a very happy and healthy New Year, and welcome the Board of Aldermen here. Welcome to the new year, and I hope that this year will be a very productive one for the residents and taxpayers, and hope that we'll all get along and move things right along. Agenda item number 6, Mayor's report and recommendations. Is there a report from the Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I too would like to wish everybody a very happy 2016. I suspect you all had a good Christmas and a good holiday and have recovered. This is the time of year, though, that we take stock in the things that didn't go so well the previous year, those challenges that we had, and we adopt new resolutions to find out new plans and new opportunities to make 2016 2016 even better. So I look forward to working with you for a successful year. With that, we do have, as we do every January, new board and commission appointments. The city of Milford has such a strong local government because of the volunteerism from your board and from all of the members on our various boards and commissions. We have people in this audience willing to sacrifice their time, their expertise for the service of this community. And to all of the members that are going to be appointed or reappointed, I'd like to say thank you very much. You are what makes Milford run. I appreciate that commitment. I appreciate the willingness to serve as a volunteer. All of our boards and commissions, including the Board of Aldermen, are volunteer positions, but because of you, because of what you're willing to do long and late into the evenings, you make Milford the best place on earth. So thank you very much. And at this point, I would like to announce those board and commission spots that are exclusive to the mayor's appointment. And I'd ask all the members that I announce to hold off and wait till the appropriate time, wait till the city clerk and the chairman call you up to the front of the auditorium to get sworn in. And at that point, we can take a recess so that everybody can officially sign up with our city clerk. The board and commission appointments that are exclusive to the mayor are Milford's Council on Aging, Cynthia DeLuca, Richard Dowen, Shirley Serrano, Doreen Fontana, and Terry Nolan. The Conservation Commission, Odin Seaholm, Carolyn Alling, Janet McAllister. Connecticut's Office of Tourism, Linda Smith-Tellier. The Inland Wetlands Agency, James Connors. Milford's Redevelopment and Housing Partnership, Richard Moore. Veterans Graves Preservation Commission, Thomas Cody Jr. and Richard Shea. And again, at the appropriate time in a few minutes, if those members that I just announced will come to the front of the auditorium to be sworn in by our city clerk. Mr. Chairman, other than that, I respectfully request your consideration and action on those items 8A through 8I. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agenda item number 7, there is no unfinished business. Moving on to agenda item number 8, moving on to new business, Alderman Vecchiarelli. Agenda item 8A, board and commission appointments.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the request of the following mayor's appointments to the boards and commissions. The Assessment Review Board of Alternates, Jason Zemilio. The Building Code, Building Code Board of Appeals, Louis D'Amato. The Civil Service Commission, Henry B. Healy and Joel Baldwin. The Ethics Commission, Chad Bedell. The Finance Board, Joseph Fitzpatrick Jr. and Lauren A. Secondi. The Fire Commission, Howard S. Stein, Joseph G. Weber, and Greta J. Stanford. The Golf Commission, William D. Healy and Daniel W. Worrell Jr. Harbor Management Commission, Nancy Bennett and James Beard. An alternate 2-year term, Dora Kubeck. Board of Health, Joan Caganello, Joan Costello, Dr. Constance Young. The Historic Preservation Commission, Carter Coulter. The Housing Code Board of Appeals, Todd Casey. Human Services, Milford Department of, Joan Campbell. The Library Board, Scott Barnett, Susan Deanna, and Peter Vita. The Parks, Beach, and Recreation Commission, Daniel Worrell and Ann Fabian. The Police Commission, Alberto Jago, Carol Ferrulo. The Sewer Commission, Lee Cook and Donald Anderson. The Transit District, Anthony Pacelli and Michael Libov. The Tree Commission, Kate Orecchio and David Skrikanhich. The Veterans Ceremony and Parade Commission, Tom. I'm sorry, I want to go back to the Tree Commission. There's an alternate, Melissa Smith. The Veterans Ceremony and Parade Commission, Tom Flowers, Niall McKenzie, and Christine L. Smith. The Zoning Board of Appeals, John Facino. Alternate, Gary Dubois.
Thank you, Alderman Vecchiarelli. At this point, I will entertain a motion to reorder the agenda to move item 8.
Mr. Chair, I think we need to discuss and vote on that motion first.
Do you hear a motion? Second. Been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. At this point, I will entertain a motion to reorder the agenda to move item 8I next on our agenda so that we can vote on all of our boards and commissions before we can move on to other city business.
So moved.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8I, appointments. There is a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the following appointments. The Animal Shelter Commission, Carrie Harla. The Flood and Erosion Control Board, Thomas Bach. The Historic District Commission, Arthur Stowe. Historic District South of the Green, Walter Ortorleve. Human Services, Milford Department of, Donna Nuno and Brenda Casey. And Susan Stango. Inland Wetlands Agency, Phillips Zati. And the alternate is Daniel Suppick. MGAT, Milford Government Access and Television Committee, Barbara Genovese, Matthew Gaynor. The Pension and Retirement Board, Richard Elwell, Michael Hedman, and Timothy Bradbury. Robert Sadi, Gregory Kimball, and the alternates are Edward Abel and Robert Smith and Jeffrey Maruthis and Michael Marino. And that's it.
Thank you, Alderman Vecchiarelli. Do we have a second? Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. At this time, let all the newly confirmed board and commission members come to the front of the auditorium to get sworn in by our city clerk.
They're still coming. Yeah, we're gonna do everybody together.
After you all get sworn in, will you go to the right over there? There's going to be some lists for you to sign in, and then we'll have a 5-minute recess for that, and you'll be be all set. Our city clerk will now
If
proceed.
you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or sincerely affirm that you will uphold your duties and responsibilities as a member of your board or commission for the city of Milford, so help you God, under the pain or penalty for perjury or false statement? Congratulations.
We got a 5-minute recess. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8B.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the attached agreement between the City of Milford and South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority for road resurfacing associated with the RWA's Milford Point Road Capital Project, and to authorize the mayor, the city attorney, and the public works director to take all steps necessary to effectuate said agreement.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Bevan.
Through you to the mayor, I see that this is approximately $24.25 a square yard that we're being paid for it. Is that more or less than what, in your opinion, it costs the city to do? I mean, my question is, are we making money, are we losing money, are we breaking even on this?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Bevan, this should be financially advantageous. We should be able to get more repaving because, again, we come under the state bid, and generally, at least for the amount of asphalt that we purchase, the state bid, which is almost always awarded to Tilcon, we have a more favorable rate than this. I can't give you a per foot cost or because it depends on how much asphalt that we purchase at a particular time. It's a sliding scale, but this will be a favorable contract for the city.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Giannatasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, good evening to the members of the board. Happy New Year. Mayor Blake, my question is, has this project started? Has the South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority started work on this in this area on Milford Point Road, or it hasn't even started yet?
I don't believe it's, in terms of design perhaps, but I don't believe that the work has been completed in earnest, no.
So once the work's completed, from the point it's completed until when we are actually going to have it paved by Tilcon, do you know how long it's going to be actually not paved?
One of the issues is there'll be a binder course that's laid down, but we also have a drainage project over the same portion of City Road. So we're going to wait until after that drainage project is complete. Our drainage project is ready for construction. The design has been done. So once the city's drainage project is done in connection with the project through the RWA, at that point we will be paving. Obviously, there's not going to be any paving happening for the winter months because the asphalt plants are closed down until the spring. So there's going to be some period of time before this happens. My guess is the early summer.
And I understand that we're going to realize a savings by delaying the paving and doing it ourselves through the contract that we have with Tilcon. But once the paving is complete, are we going to be reassured that we're not going to have to go in and actually cut into the road to do any extra work down the line?
In addition to the financially advantageous rates that we're going to get, in addition to that, the reason that we're delaying this or holding off is because we are also doing construction work, and so we did have some forethought that went into this so that we wouldn't be cutting the road up twice within the period of a year. We tried to coordinate with the different utility companies, the gas company, but we do that quarterly, and their priorities change, their schedules change. We do the best we can. We have been coordinating a lot more significantly than ever before, but again, there may be a construction project that comes up that cuts into this road that we can't anticipate at this point, but we're trying to do the best we can, absent clairvoyance, to make this happen.
So is it safe to say moving forward we're going to have the same approach to specific jobs as far as realizing the savings in the paving, doing it ourselves, and delaying the paving in order to complete all the work that needs to be done rather than continue to cut and patch?
We've done this recently. There'll probably be several more projects. As you know, a similar resolution was adopted by this board a couple months ago for the Woodmont Road utility project that UI was doing, and this is similar to that. So there has been at least several in the last couple months, but if we can make it work and there's a benefit for both the utility company and the city of Milford, we're going to try to do that whenever possible.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vaccarelli, agenda item 8C.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the acceptance of a grant in the amount of $7,830.33 under the Connecticut Institute for Resilience and Climate Adaptation Municipal Resilience Grant Program for the developing and implementing a restoration and management plan to combat threats and challenges to coastal dunes, resiliency in urban landscapes, and to authorize the mayor, the city attorney, and finance director to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said grant.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Alderman Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. This project resides in the 2nd District, and I'm a representative of the 2nd District. I'd like to say that I think it's a great project, and I definitely support it. I just do have one question for the mayor. What is the long-term plan of the upkeep of the area?
As you know, our Public Works Department maintains our beaches, and there is, especially with dunes that collects garbage and debris, some of the long grasses. We see it already at Walnut Beach. We see it at Gulf Beach and some of the other places where we have planted erosion control grasses. They're more likely to collect debris, garbage, things that do not get picked up by the beach sweeper. So we do have to, again, continually hand-pick those items out. It becomes exacerbated in the summer months when our beaches are well used. It's part of the maintenance program. Steve Johnson, our open space coordinator, who is the point person for this grant, has contemplated that, but our open space coordinator does work hand in hand with our Public Works Department for those open spaces that we utilize, including our beaches.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Alderman Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I just recognize the open space manager, Steve Johnson? And while you're coming up, I just want to note, I read through this grant, and I think if anybody hasn't read through this, they should. It's a beautiful grant, by the way, and Very well thought through, and it's a great proposal. And I did note on the cover letter in the acceptance of the grant, they did comment about how this grant stood out. So all compliments to you. There are a lot of great components to this grant, and I just was going to ask you to just speak very briefly to it.
Well, this grant was really a collaborative effort between myself and Janet McAllister, who's just been appointed to the Conservation Commission. It's been something that I've wanted to do down there for the last couple of years, and it's a question of funding. Janet approached me. She's new to Milford in the last couple of years. She approached me saying, what can we do? There's a much, how can we improve this dune area? And a couple of months following that conversation, this grant opportunity came up through CIRCA, the Connecticut Institute of Resilience and Climate Adaptation. And there was a living shorelines category. And I thought immediately of this. I reached out to them, and they said, no, it would be appropriate. And so together with Janet and myself, we put the application together. The funding statewide was $100,000 statewide. So we knew in this type of, and there was about a half a dozen other categories, some of them much greater significance in scope. So we knew we had a certain budget framework to work within, so we came up with this, and just were appreciative that they awarded us this grant. It requires no match, although we anticipate opportunities to collaborate with our Public Works Department and with volunteers. And it's a reimbursable grant, so everything that we spend within the grant will be reimbursed.
Thank you. If I just add, it's got a wonderful public engagement and outreach component to this.
And I wanted to, actually wanted to address that in terms of the litter debris issues. One of the components of this is how can we help convey what is a healthy dune and what can we do in terms of the location next to the boardwalk to help maintain this in a healthy way, not only with the vegetation, but minimizing the litter and bringing the attention to the public that uses this on a regular basis. So one of the components we're going to be doing is some public outreach. I want to engage the community, students. We also want to include some signage to help raise awareness to this issue. And I think the scope of this is an 18-month. We're going to be also been asked to provide some 3-year monitoring in terms of the dune project, which Janet and I have agreed to do together here. So,
thank you both very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, through you, in terms of the maintenance as well, our engineering department does shoot the levels or the grades of our beaches. We shoot them on a very regular basis over at the Army Corps beaches, like at Hawley Avenue, but even Walnut Beach and the other beaches, we do take the gradations to make sure that if there is erosion, that we're keeping up with it. So that's another part of the maintenance that happens in-house.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Bevan.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Johnson, the $7,800 that we have the grant for, could you explain what you might be spending that money on?
Well, yes, good question. So we're going to be looking at probably the key component that we're going to be doing is undertaking an invasive management program, very specialized along that coastal area, and in looking at the resources and how to accomplish that in the best way possible, and getting the approval of DEEP, which I've reached out to. This firm called All Habitat Services has specialized in this and has a lot of expertise in how to control a number of the invasive plants that are in there. The primary culprit that brought our attention to it initially was the Japanese knotweed, which is really blocking the view of the sound. And unfortunately, from the dune erosion standpoint, as dense as Japanese knotweed looks, it's very poor erosion control, whereas the beach grass is much more effective at holding the dune in place and also trapping other sand as it blows up. So in terms of the biggest expense out of this grant, I think it was $3,200 for the all habitat invasive management of about half a dozen different invasive plants on the dune. We're planning on putting about 7,500 beach Cape American beachgrass plugs in the dune over 2 different planting periods, and I think that's about $1,600. We also have about $500 in salt-tolerant shrubs involved with, and then we've got $1,100 or so in signage that we're planning to do. And then there's a couple of other $1,000 of incidentals, but are really important. You know, things like planning on putting some snow fencing along the fore-dune area between the dune and the beach. We're going to be just a myriad of, including even little shovels. You know, I've got, I don't know, 15 or so shovels that we'll be using to help plant the beach grass plugs, et cetera. So, you know, I think we've got it well rounded out, and hopefully we've covered all the bases. We've reached out and collaborated with a couple of other, Juliana Barrett from Connecticut Sea Grant, and others that have helped us in terms of this grant proposal. So,
Phil, as a follow-up question, right now we have some sand from this area that's up in Eisenhower Park.
mm-hmm.
Do you think this might be an opportunity to remove the sand from Eisenhower Park and more or less bring the sand back home?
It's a great question, and it's something that Public Works Director Chris Saley and I have actually talked about. At the eastern edge of this project area, the dune tapers off along the boardwalk, and there is no dune at that area. And what I've talked with Chris about is that the opportunity of looking at the sand and creating a continued dune extension along the boardwalk, and then coordinating that with not only placing it, assuring that the sand is clean and appropriate for that, and with all the proper permits, but coinciding that with a beach grass planting and shrub, because you'd have to vegetate it. Otherwise, any storms come through, it would just cause more erosion. But if you can place the sand in, get it vegetated, it would be another further protection along that boardwalk area, but it also makes a much more interesting walk and habitat area as well. So I'm hopeful that that can take place, but it would be outside the scope of this grant.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Johnson. I applaud you for the grant, and you know, beginning to realize how important the dunes are to our coastal area and the environment. But what is the tonnage of sand that's going to be needed to create these dunes?
Well, the dune that the project, the grant is focused on already exists. And so all we're doing is just restoring it and trying to get it back into balance with what's a more sustainable and more resilient dune environment with the vegetation. So we don't have to put any sand in place. That right where the dune starts for this project area is if you go down at the base of Viscount Drive, just at the entrance to the fishing pier, to the left is a section of the dune, I think it's 376 feet long, to the next boardwalk extension out to the beach. And so that area, which is already in a dune environment and already vegetated, but just unfortunately with some of the wrong vegetation in there.
So therefore, you don't really, it's just movement, a little bit of movement in it? You're going to get machines in there to move stuff?
No, all we're going to be doing in terms of the scope of the services for this project grant is all habitat will be coming in and treating specific plants with approved herbicides by the state to kill. The Japanese knotweed is incredibly difficult to kill, and we also don't want to dig up the dune and remove any of the root systems, because that is also helping to hold the dune in place. So it's going to be a phased in terms of treating to remove the invasive vegetation, and then in phased moving up, starting to plant beach grass. So the thought is that most of the invasive is in the midsection of the dune to the back, and so we can plant some of the beach grass in the front part in first phase, let the invasive management be successful, and then we can do the other planting in the back end of the dune when that vegetation's been cleared out.
So as I understand it, you're not going to move any sand at all?
No, not for the
okay.
For the grant.
Aside from that, having said that, I don't know if Bill's question was really answered. That sand that is down at Eisenhower Park, well, is that going to be a usable commodity in later to deal with some of the beach erosion?
Well, to clarify Alderman Bevan's question, I think what he was asking, is there an opportunity to repurpose the sand that's left over from Storm Sandy? And so what I proposed to Chris is that we look at creating another dune east of this project area towards Silver Sands Park and create a dune, an elevated dune that doesn't exist, and together with planting the proper vegetation to hold the dune in place so it doesn't erode, and but that would be outside the scope of this particular grant. If there's an opportunity to apply for other funding for a project like that, it's certainly something we'd welcome the opportunity to do.
But again, the sand that is at Eisenhower Park is usable?
Don't know yet. We have to confirm that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Johnson, I would like to thank you for giving us such a comprehensive size up of the plan here that you are going to do. And the invasive species that you'll try to get rid of, and putting the species back that used to be there to help them and bring back what once used to be. And I would like to just read a couple of things off of your project description here, and that is that we're talking about the end of Viscount Drive in an area that is known as the Walnut Beach area. Used to be known as Myrtle Beach, and that the 5-year period from 64 to 1968, there was 30 streets, 138 businesses, 584 dwellings, a church, community hall, hotels, and an amusement park that were totally demolished through an urban redevelopment plan. And it's kind of stood vacant all those years without any attention after the state never did anything. They had great plans, and they moved all those people out, tore everything out, tore everything down, and did nothing with it. And so now your idea of trying to make this such a nice place for open space for the people of Milford that'll work, that walk that Broadway and walk in the fields over there. It's greatly appreciated. The grant that you got for the monies to be able to do this, the volunteers that you helped find, and all of those people that support you. We're Milford's so very lucky to have somebody like you and the people that are behind you making things like this possible. I just can't say how happy I am that this will finally, be a little nicer down there than it's been since they tore all that stuff out. So, and the wildlife down there is tremendous too. The animals have a place to go. There's deer down there, and it's really a lovely area. Thank you.
And thank you. It's a great location. I think it's a great location to do this type of outreach because it's going to stimulate a lot of conversation and an opportunity to help make a difference. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish here. But thank you for all your support.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Johnson, good evening.
Good evening.
In your submission, you mentioned volunteers, and Alderman Vecchiarelli also mentioned that you have a very strong core volunteer group. And I was just curious if you can maybe give us a brief outline, because you mentioned that Public Works their scope of work versus what the volunteers actually do. I'd be interested to know.
Well, you know, the Public Works has, you know, the responsibility for maintaining the public lands. In these type of opportunities, I reach out to Public Works and ask, you know, for opportunity to collaborate, so we can not only, you know, have Public Works support volunteer efforts, and there's certainly situations where, you know, what Public Works can accomplish versus volunteers is significant. And in this case here, you know, when we submitted the grant, we reached out and got a letter of support from the Walnut Beach Association. The thought was that I could reach out through their association with like an early Earth Day, if you will. Mackenzie's beach cleanup takes place in late April, early May every year, and I reached out and said, hey, maybe there's an opportunity we can do an early Earth Day beach grass planting, you know, with Mackenzie's beach cleanup type of situation. Public Works has always, you know, has helped support that type of an event. Very grateful to be able to do that. You know, so it's, you know, it's a situation where nothing is written in stone here, but we know what the tasks are. I've already reached out to Public Works and let them know that, you know, this grant we're being awarded, and we want to reach out and work together in terms of these project tasks that come up, so we can work together on it.
So, Mr. Johnson, you mentioned like applying herbicides and things like that. Would that be something more of what a volunteer would do, or
No.
that's
Yeah,
more
that
of a
was-
Public Works?
Yeah, I've already discussed this. DEP actually had given me some recommendations together with some of our other the grant resources that we reached out to. It's a really specialized environment, and DEP has a relationship and knows the All Habitat Services and other work that they've done in other dune systems. So they're comfortable, you know, with this, with them doing those, providing those services under the scope of the grant. But it wouldn't be anything that volunteers would be associated with. It requires a professional license and a certain a deep level of expertise in how to do this properly and with the least amount of herbicide to be effective.
Okay, thank you, and extend our thanks to the volunteers as well.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thanks.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you for your
Thank you,
support.
Steve, for all your efforts. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8D.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the attached resolution regarding the Connecticut Institute for Resilience and Climate Adaptation Municipal Resilience Grant Program.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8E.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the attached indemnity agreement between YPB 1928 LLC, Citrix, Santurnier, Cyrus Centenary, in the city of Milford for the placement of Wi-Fi hardware on the roof of property located on 49, 51, and 53 River Street, and to authorize the mayor to take all steps necessary to effectuate said indemnity agreement.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Casey.
Thank you. Through you to the mayor, if you can just give us some background, how we got to this point. I know this is an indemnification agreement, but who approached whom and why we agreed on this site, you know, so some background how we got to this point right here.
This is a project that the Milford Technology Advisory Council embarked on about 3 years ago, and they are trying to make all of our downtown wireless. They started off with wireless availability really along the green, and then it jogged down to the marina, down Factory Lane to the marina, and now they're proposing to jog all the way down River Street towards City Hall. They're putting different amplifiers or antenna. I know that I'm not giving you the proper technological names, but they are trying to expand from their original downtown Wi-Fi down towards River Street, and they place their equipment on atop other buildings. So far, I think all of the equipment is placed on private buildings. This particular property owner, though, unlike previous property owners, has requested an indemnification agreement, which, again, insulates the property from any type of harm or damage to person or property. That's if one of these antennas, I'm assuming, falls off and damages a window or falls on top of a person. It's relatively small equipment that's placed on top of these roofs. I don't think has the potential or possible for a lot of damage, but the owner still has requested a indemnification agreement. There is no cost, to the best of my knowledge. He's not leasing the space. There's no cost to the city or the Milford Technology Advisory Council for rent or for this equipment being installed on top of his roof. He's doing it gratis, or the property owners are doing it gratis, but they are asking that the city insulate this property from liability if there's any potential liability.
And just as a follow-up, who's performing the installation of the hardware?
The Milford Technology Advisory Council does hire contractors to install this equipment.
Thank you.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through the Mayor. You say the equipment or hardware that is involved is not numerous or complicated or whatever it may be, but we're going to indemnify the structure or hold harmless the owner of the building, yet do we know the integral structure of the roof, the existing roof, that it's not flawed in any way, that it will be able to maintain the equipment? And that's my number one. That's one question. The other thing is, why can we not put it on a public building, too? And the idea here is that I can't understand that here's a private person putting something on their building and not getting a rental fee from the provider. That seems very odd. I know when we talked about all those towers going out near the Y and everything else, they would be taking and getting rent for those towers, and so if you can remember those questions and you can answer them, I'd appreciate it.
Well, some of them I can answer, some of them I'll defer to the city attorney's office, because that office negotiated the terms of the indemnification agreement. In terms of the fact that there is no cost, again, it's for the public good. We've had several private citizens and private business owners that have agreed or volunteered to utilize this equipment for the public good. It's goodwill. So that's, I guess, the reason. Above and beyond that, I don't really have any explanation why there is no charge for the installation of this equipment. Two, the equipment is not like a cell phone tower that's 110 feet up in the air. This is a relatively low-profile amplifier. Why are we doing it on a private structure as opposed to a municipal structure or a public structure? The folks at the Milford Technology Advisory Council are the experts. They're the ones that determined what will get the best range, where the amplification equipment needs to be in order to provide that section of town, that section of the downtown area with the right amount of coverage. So it's really a coverage issue. They look first for where it's going to provide the best coverage before they install the equipment. It also has to do with how far from the main equipment these secondary jogs or these secondary amplification or amplifiers are, and that also is part of the consideration for the Milford Technology Advisory Council. But Attorney Bertram, do you have anything else to add to that?
Just a question would be that I think if I'm wrong, correct me please if I'm not wrong, You had indicated that many people, out of their goodwill, had provided space on their roofs for equipment, and yet this individual owner wants an indemnification process or insurance that nothing will happen. Why is it not common that everyone or everywhere we put an antenna would have a save harmless clause?
I don't know. This is the first time it's been requested.
Okay. Again, are we going to be looking at the integrity of the structure, to making sure that it holds all of the equipment, so that later on we are not paying for something that maybe initially was not where it was led to believe that it would provide the structure for the antennas?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Vitale. I'll give you a background from my perspective, Alderman Vitale. The Technology Committee approached me saying they identified this particular property as providing the best site for its efforts to amplify the Wi-Fi service, the free Wi-Fi downtown. They asked me to approach the owner, Mr. Centenary, to inquire as to his interest to avail himself of allowing the amplification device to be placed on his roof. He was amenable to that. He simply said, listen, if it flies off in a storm or causes a leak, am I going to be protected? And I said, sure. And we discussed indemnification. I've had no other conversations with other property owners that may or been involved in allowing this amplifier to be placed on the rooftop. It's straightforward, standard. In terms of the roof, we have not yet, we being the city and or an agent or contractor of the Technology Committee, gone up on top of his roof to take a look at it. But in the same way, if I'm going to rent a car, I'm going to know the condition of it, so when I return it, the scratch on the front left quarter panel is not going to be blamed on me. It's going to be similar to that roof. We're going to ensure that the roof can handle the equipment. It's my understanding it's very small. It's not weighty. It's not going to cause anything, any impact whatsoever on the roof. It's simply going to be secured on it. But it's not anything that would cause damage to the roof. But we will ensure that we know what the condition of the roof is, that it can handle the weight, however minor it will be, and we'll both be protected. You'll see the indemnification agreement protects both sides. He has control over the roof. We're only indemnifying what we are involved in, which is this minor, I use minor in the relative scheme, amplification device.
Thank you for clarification. Further clarification, we approached him for this space, or did he approach us?
I approached him in response to a request by the Technology Committee saying, I said, Cyrus, it's your lucky day. They want to put an amplifier on top of your roof. Are you willing to do it? And he said, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the City Attorney, Attorney Burcham. Attorney Burcham, I just have a question in regards to the people that already have this antenna on their buildings that don't have this agreement in place. And you said it protects both parties. Are we at risk? Or if something does happen, will we be liable in that case, being that there is no agreement and in a situation that already occurs?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Giannattasio, I'm not aware of any other rooftops that we're on in terms of this Wi-Fi service. I personally am not. I don't want to say there's no risk. There's always risk. But if I'm a property owner and I have an amplification device on my roof that they've let the city come on, I read the minutes of this meeting, I may call up the city attorney and say, can I get one of those as well? I think the risk is greater on the property owners. I think Mr. Centenary just exhibited his business sense to ask for this. If he's going to allow us to put a piece of equipment on top of his roof, he's going to want whatever protection he can get, be it limited to the device that's listed there. I don't believe we're at risk for those other situations. If there are any, I'm not aware of them. It hasn't not been brought to my office.
So, in your opinion, moving forward, if another site is identified and we're going to move to put piece of equipment on there, this agreement would also be in place for future property owners to indemnify?
I
Or
think
is that just going to be upon request of the property owner?
I think it's upon the request of the property owner, you know, because really we are indemnifying them from that, and an indemnification is a potential future financial obligation for the city, and that's why it's before this board, because we can't incur that. The mayor can't incur that on his own. He needs this board's approval to do so. So that's how this indemnification agreement is before you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8F.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request per the attached letter to amend the lease between the Chiropractic and Wellness Center of Milford and the City of Milford to a month-to-month lease, and to authorize the mayor and city attorney to take all steps necessary to effectuate said amendment.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to either the mayor and or city attorney. I know that the city had acquired the property recently. I'm wondering if you were to view the building from River Street, where might Unit 14 be? Is it an interior space or exterior? And do you view this as a door opener? Is this the first of potentially other tenants to come to us and ask that there be a reopener clause within their lease?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Anderson, this is the property that we recently acquired through a $5 million grant from the state. We have agreed to work with all of the tenants and honor leases up to June of 2018. However, on a case-by-case basis, this is not necessarily an opener, we are going to entertain modifications of the lease. In this case, the letter that's contained in your packet is relatively comprehensive. There is a specific need for Dr. Rumley's business, and Dr. Rumley is in the audience, to be without a gap. Dr. Rumley presently, under her existing lease, is a month-to-month lease. However, there's a 6-month notice period. Just because of the nature of that business, there cannot be any gaps. Patients have to go in for continuous treatment. If it takes several months to provide notice and then move facilities to another location, that has to be done in a seamless manner. As to your question about location, it is located at the very corner of the building, furthest away from River Street. And to your question about is it a door opener, I don't think we're going to, if there are other exceptions that are requested, it'll have to come before your board. It'll be reviewed and addressed on a case-to-case basis, but certainly Dr. Rumley does put a compelling basis together for modifying the existing lease. And again, these are all Milford businesses. These are all folks that we want to be successful, that we want to encourage to relocate in Milford, and we want to have a partnership for many, many years and many, many generations. So this is part of the thing that we're doing to make sure that these Milford businesses are supported locally.
Quite right. I thank the mayor for his response. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Alderman Anderson. Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8G.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the attached no-cost space agreement between the United States Small Business Administration and the City of Milford, and to authorize the mayor to take all steps necessary to effectuate said agreement.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8H.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request per the attached recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Board dated December 17, 2015, for the acceptance of the capital improvement plan for the years 2016 to 2020. This document is located in the back of this agenda.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8I. New business. And on agenda item number 10, there are no budget memo transfers. Agenda item 11, moving on to refunds. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item number 11A.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the refunds in the amount of $8,745. Yeah, well, this number here is $8,745, and I'm going to say 17 cents.
Is that correct, Kathy?
Well, I know it is an 8 million.
We're checking now. Hang on. Peter, do you have that in your notes?
Mr. Chairman, through you, normally there would be a memo from SUTAF, the tax collector, to confirm the number. We are looking through the agenda book to find it if it's there, but I would make an educated guess to say that there's a typo in the cents. It's clearly $8,745. And it's probably 17 cents or 13 cents. One of the digits has to come out of there. Thank you.
Why don't I amend my motion?
You want to, what an idea would be to make this happen next month rather than, or you don't think that's
Through you, Mr. Chairman,
your opinion?
in my opinion, I think it's de minimis enough that you could approve it as is, and it would be fine. Thank you. And to be safe, I would make it 17 cents as opposed to 13.
Make your motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend the motion that we bring up the consideration of the refunds at our next monthly Alderman meeting. This way here we can get the actual figure, even though I know it's a minimal amount, but I'd rather we have the correct figures here in front of us, and it's just doing it the right way. So I would like to make an amendment that we do this next month, and let's go that way.
There's a motion and a second to amend the original motion to table the amount of consideration of refunds. Is there any discussion? Alderman Beer.
Does this affect your monthly closeouts of your reconciling of the city's funds? I mean, is this something that has to be done on a month-to-month basis, or can you carry this into the next month and group it up as so no refunds in January and then double it up or whatever it is in February?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, it will have an impact. Number one, obviously, it will delay the refunds to the taxpayers or to the mortgage companies, and it will become a reconciling item, but logically, it could be carried over into the next month, yes.
Yes, Alderman Beer.
I know we have an amendment on the table, but I was just wondering if you guys might entertain an amendment where we just rephrase this and said we would do the consideration up to 17 cents. So instead of saying consideration of refunds in the amount of, could we do it consideration of refunds in the amount up to $8,745.17? This way we know it won't be more than that amount. And then we can just get it done this month.
Well, right now we have a motion and a second on the floor. Let's deal with that first.
I guess, can we remove that? Or are you really adamant on tabling it?
Right now there's a motion on the floor and a second. Let's deal with that motion, Mr. Alderman Beer, okay? Any discussions on that particular motion, Alderman Vecchiarelli's motion? No more discussion?
I vote that we don't approve it.
Alderman Giannattasio.
I would just like to add that I would vote against it in hope that we can agree with Alderman Beer's motion. This way we can accommodate the finance director. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if we take a few-minute recess, the finance director can get you the exact figure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 5-minute recess.
Mr. Chair, just before we go, is it necessary to list the refunds, or is that a moot point with the listing? Because every month we used to have the listing of people.
We'll try to get a copy.
We're in a 5-minute recess. We're out of recess.
I would like to.
I'm going to have you rescind. Alderman Vecchiarelli is going to rescind his motion. Everybody hear that? Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Yeah, we're back to the. I'd like to take back my amended motion.
Excuse me. First of all, we got to take back the second.
Okay.
You send the second, now you can take that.
And we go back to the original motion because it seems like the mistake is either it's 17 cents or 13 cents from our finance director, and he figures we might as well err on the 17 cents rather than the 13 cents. So my motion would be the $8,745.17. That was the original motion. So I would make, that's the one on the table now.
Thank you, Alderman Vecchiarelli. Do we have a second? We have a second. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for the consideration. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item number 11, refunds. I just did that. Okay, agenda item number 12, reports of standing committees. Is there any reports of standing committees? Seeing none? Move on to special committees. Any special committees reports? Seeing none? Move on to item number 14A, consideration of executive session. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss 14A, consideration of settlement of Roy Collins Francis versus City of Milford regarding 7 Crest Place. Item 14B, consideration of settlement of Empyrean Hospitality LLC versus City of Milford regarding 190 Old Gate Lane. Item number 14C, 68 Stowe Avenue, Stowe Barn, discussion concerning potential sale, purchase of property. And item number 14D, 701 North Street, discussion concerning potential sale, purchase of property. Joining us in executive session for items 14A and 14B will be the Mayor, Ben Blake, the City Attorney, John Bertram, and Tax Assessor, Dan Thomas. Joining us in executive session for items 14C and D will be the Mayor and the City Attorney. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're in executive session. Will the aldermen please take their seats?
Let's see, what do we got?
We're out of executive session. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
We only got A and B?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to authorize the city to accept consideration of settlement of Roy Collins Francis versus City of Milford regarding 7 Crescent Place in accordance with the recommendations of the City Assessor and the City Attorney as discussed in executive session.
We have a motion and a second. Is any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 14B, Alderman Vecchiarelli. Empyrean.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to authorize the city to accept consideration of settlement of Empyrean Hospitality LLC versus City of Milford regarding 190 Old Gate Lane in accordance with the recommendations of the City Assessor and City Attorney as discussed in executive session.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.